I'm a bartender at a haunted bar in Texas. There are strange rules to follow. They told me the job would be easy. Late hours, good tips, and only a few locals to deal with. Nothing I couldn't handle. But no one mentioned the rules, or the fact that the bar never closes, or that the regulars don't cast reflections. I took the job at the Devil's Tap thinking it'd be just another dusty hole-in-the-wall bar in a forgotten Texas town. I was dead wrong, and if I break even one of the rules, I might be next. The job posting was oddly specific. Night bartender needed. Must be discreet. Must follow house rules without question. High pay. It was buried between local classifieds and ad for taxidermy services in a ragged newspaper I found outside a gas station while traveling through West Texas. I didn't plan to stay in Alvedo. Hell, I wasn't even sure it was on the map. My car had overheated, and the next mechanic was 50 miles in either direction. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, and I didn't feel like sleeping in my front seat. So, I walked into town looking for somewhere to kill time. That's when I saw it. A squat brick building nestled between two crumbling storefronts. A single neon sign buzzed lazily above the rusted door, the Devil's Tap. There was something off about it from the start. The windows were completely blacked out. No music spilled out. No laughter. Yet I felt watched. Compelled. Like the building itself wanted me inside. A man stood behind the bar, polishing a cloudy glass. Mid-50s maybe, thick gray beard and skin like old leather. His eyes were pale. Too pale. "You here for the ad?" he asked, without looking up. I froze. "Oh, what?" He set the glass down. "We need a new bartender. Pays cash. You'll work nights. That's all we ask. But there are rules." I don't know why I said yes. Something in my gut screamed to turn around and leave Alvedo behind. But the deeper part of me, the one that had always flirted with danger, said stay. That's how I ended up behind the bar by sundown, being handed a brittle piece of paper that looked like it had been typed decades ago. Across the top in faded red ink were the words, "House rules for night staff. The Devil's Tap. Rule number 1, never unlock the cellar. Rule number 2, don't look in a mirror behind the bar after 3 a.m. Rule number 3, if a man named Lyle comes in, serve him exactly 3 fingers of rye. No more, no less. Rule number 4, the jukebox plays what it wants. Don't unplug it. Don't question it. Rule number 5, at closing time, 4 a.m. sharp, ring the bell once. Just once. Rule number 6, if you hear someone whisper your name from the hallway, ignore it. Rule number 7, whatever you do, never let the lights go out." Are these a joke? I asked, trying to play it cool. The older man, who introduced himself as Clint, shook his head. "Break one, and you'll wish you hadn't." Then he slapped a ring of keys onto the bar. "You start tonight." Just like that. No paperwork. No background check. Not even a tour of the place. Clint vanished through a door marked private and didn't return. By 10 p.m., the first customer walked in. An old man with sunken cheeks and clouded eyes. He didn't say a word, just took a seat near the far end of the bar and tapped twice. I poured him a drink. He sipped it without looking at me. One by one, the rest trickled in. None of them spoke more than a few words. No one laughed. No one checked their phones. A woman in a red dress hummed tunelessly in the corner. A man with no eyebrows ordered a Bloody Mary and left it untouched. The whole place felt like a dream someone forgot they were having. Then at 1:13 a.m., the jukebox roared to life. No one had touched it. It blared out a warped rendition of Blue Moon, but the lyrics were wrong. Off, like someone was singing from underwater. I approached it slowly, resisting the urge to unplug it. Don't unplug it. Don't question it. Right. Rule number 4. Instead, I busied myself cleaning up the already spotless bar, trying to ignore the growing headache pounding behind my eyes. At 2:47 a.m., the door creaked open again. A tall man in a cowboy hat stepped inside. Dust clung to his boots like ash. His skin was sunburnt and cracked, but it was his eyes that caught me. Dark, empty, like two holes burned through parchment. He walked slowly to the bar, placed a crumpled 20 on the counter, and said, 3 fingers of rye. Rule number 3. I measure the pour exactly. No more, no less. He downed it in one swig, tipped his hat, and left without a word. No one acknowledged him, not even the jukebox. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. But the real horror didn't begin until 3 a.m. That's when the mirror behind the bar changed. I caught my reflection in it all night, nothing unusual. But now, as I turned to grab a towel, I saw something else. Me, but not me. The reflection wore my clothes, had my face, but it wasn't moving the way I was. It lagged behind by just a second. Its smile was too wide. Its eyes flicked to mine and stayed there, even as I looked away. I dropped the towel. My knees buckled. The reflection didn't. Instead, it raised a hand and waved. I backed away, remembering rule number 2. Don't look in the mirror after 3 a.m. I grabbed a rag and tossed it over the glass. I didn't want to see what would happen if I stared too long. The last hour dragged like a funeral procession. At exactly 4 a.m., the lights above the bar flickered. Remembering rule number 5, I grabbed the old brass bell from beneath the counter and rang it. Just once. Every patron stood up in unison. Not one of them looked at me. They filed out, silent as smoke, except for the woman in the red dress. She walked up to the bar, her face obscured by her curls, and placed a photograph in front of me. It was old, sepia-toned, water-stained, but I recognized the figure in it. Me, or at least someone who looked exactly like me, dressed in 1930s barkeep attire, standing behind the very same bar. Her voice was like wind through dry grass. You should have let the mirror be. Then she was gone. By 4:10 a.m., the bar was empty again. Silence settled heavy in the air. I looked at the photograph again. There, scribbled on the back, were the words, "They always come back." I didn't sleep that morning. The sun didn't warm Alvido the way it should have. It just hung there, pale and distant, like it was watching too. I should have walked away. I should have found the mechanic and never looked back. But something kept me tethered. Some morbid curiosity. Or maybe the bar had already sunk its claws in me. Tonight, I'm going back. I'll follow the rules. I'll keep the lights on. I'll serve Lala's rye. But deep down, I know something is watching from behind the mirror, waiting for me to slip. And I'm starting to wonder if the Devil's Tap hired me or chose me. Don't talk to the man in the hat. Last night, I survived my first shift at the Devil's Tap. I followed the rules, barely. I served the man, named Lyle his drink, ignored the whispers calling my name, and kept the mirror covered after 3 a.m. But tonight, the bar feels different. It's colder, meaner, and there's a new rule that wasn't written on the list. One passed to me in a whisper by a patron with missing teeth. Don't talk to the man in the hat, or he'll follow you home. The photograph haunted me all day. I must have stared at it for hours, flipping it over again and again, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. The man behind the bar looked just like me. Same sharp jaw, same lazy I'd always been self-conscious about. But the photo was nearly 100 years old, and I hadn't even been to Texas until last week. Maybe I'm losing it, I whispered to myself, sitting cross-legged on the motel bed, blinds drawn tight. At 6 p.m., the air turned strange. The whole town of Alvido grew unnervingly still. Even the bugs stopped their droning. I stood at the window and peeked through the blinds. Across the street, the Devil's Tap sat like a tombstone, silent, patient, waiting. My legs carried me there on autopilot. Some part of me knew that skipping my shift wasn't an option anymore. The bar owned me now, whether I admitted it or not. Clint was waiting when I arrived. Same pale eyes, same weathered face. "Good," he said without greeting. "You came back. You didn't tell me the mirror bites," I muttered. He gave a dry chuckle. "I didn't tell you a lot of things." "Like what?" He leaned in close. "Like the man in the hat." I froze. "Lyle." Clint shook his head. "No, not Lyle. You'll know him when he walks in. Tall, shadowy. Don't talk to him. Don't serve him. Don't even look him in the eye." I waited for a punchline, but Clint's expression didn't change. His eyes flicked to the door behind me like he already regretted saying anything. Before I could ask more, he handed me a new list, freshly typed on that same bro paper. Additional rules. Rule number 8. The woman in the red dress is not what she appears. If she asks to dance, refuse. Rule number 9. The back hallway leads nowhere good. Keep it locked. Rule number 10. If the mirror uncovers itself, do not recover it. Turn around and walk away. Rule number 11. If the man in the wide-brimmed hat enters, do not speak. Do not serve him. Do not acknowledge him. Clint locked eyes with me. "You still want this job?" I didn't answer. He didn't wait. By 9:45 p.m., the place had filled up. But this time, the air had a different pressure to it. The patrons weren't just odd, they were hungry. Their stares lasted too long. Their skin sagged like it didn't quite fit, and not one of them had a shadow. At 10:15, the jukebox kicked on again. Devil in disguise. Elvis crooned, but the voice was wrong. Lower, slurred, and echoing like it came from a cave. I kept my head down and served drinks as usual, counting every second. At 1:07 a.m., the door creaked open. She returned, the woman in the red dress. Same sway in her walk, same tune in her throat. She didn't go to her usual corner this time. She walked straight up to the bar and smiled at me. It was the kind of smile that makes you feel like prey. "Would you dance with me tonight?" she asked, voice soft as velvet. My chest tightened. Rule 8. Refuse. I swallowed hard. I'm flattered, but I don't dance. Her eyes narrowed. "Not even for me." "No," I said louder this time. Her smile faded. Her lips curled down into something primal, like a wolf caught mid-growl. Then, just like before, she turned and walked away. The jukebox sputtered and fell silent. The other patrons didn't move. For 10 full minutes, no one spoke. Then came the footsteps. Heavy, measured, like boots made of iron. The temperature in the bar dropped. My breath fogged the glass in my hand. Clint had told me I'd know him when I saw him. And he was right. The man in the hat entered like smoke, tall, wiry, dressed in an all-black duster and wide-brimmed hat that obscured most of his face. His skin looked stretched too tight, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass. He didn't sit. He didn't speak. He watched. He stood near the back wall and stared at me, never blinking, never moving. A tremor rolled through my body, instinct screaming to do something. Acknowledge him, greet him, offer him a drink, anything to break the tension. But I didn't. Rule 11. Don't speak. Don't serve. Don't acknowledge. So, I busied myself cleaning a spotless glass and pretended I didn't feel his eyes gouging through me. Then came the whisper, not from a customer, not from behind the bar, from inside my own ear. "He's hungry." I dropped the glass, the crash echoing through the bar like a gunshot. The man in the hat stepped forward. One boot, then the next. Closer, closer. He stopped inches from the mirror, the one still covered in the rag I'd thrown over it the night before. Then, without lifting a finger, the cloth fluttered to the floor on its own. Rule 10. If the mirror uncovers itself, do not recover it. Walk away. But I didn't walk away, because the reflection staring back at me wasn't mine. It was Clint's. Only, Clint was standing in the back room. The reflection stared at me, for several long seconds before slowly smiling. Then, behind him, in the mirror's reflection, the man in the hat appeared. But he wasn't just standing. He was inside the mirror, closer now, grinning. I backed away, nearly slipping on the wet floor. The lights flickered. The jukebox let out a shriek of feedback. And then, nothing. Darkness. The lights had gone out. I fumbled for the flashlight under the bar. My fingers found something wet and warm instead. I yanked my hand back, heart racing, and lit a match from the emergency drawer. The flickering flame cast dancing shadows across the bar. Every single patron was gone. Gone. No sound. No movement. Just me and the man in the hat, now sitting at the bar, facing me, unmoving. His hat tilted slightly, revealing eyes like black marbles, swirling with something I couldn't understand. He tapped a single bony finger on the bar. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move. The match burned my fingers, and I dropped it. When I lit another, the man was gone. But carved into the wood of the bar, where he had tapped, were 3 words. You see me. I rang the bell at 4 a.m. once, just like the rules said, but no one came to leave. The bar was empty already. When I stumbled back to the motel at dawn, the sky was wrong. The clouds spun counterclockwise. Birds flew in reverse. And on the pillow in my motel room was the same photograph from before. Only this time, I wasn't alone behind the bar. Standing beside me was the man in the hat. His eyes bore through the photograph, straight into mine, and scrawled in red ink across the bottom edge were 4 words. Don't look behind you. I turned. The room was empty, but something tells me I didn't leave the bar tonight. It followed me home. Never ring the bell twice. Last night, I broke a rule without meaning to, or maybe I just saw too much. The man in the hat stared at me, then vanished. But now, he's not in the bar anymore. He's out here. The photograph changed again. The cloud spun wrong, and when I got back to my room, something was waiting. I thought the devil's tap was haunted, but now, I think the haunting follows you if you don't obey the rules perfectly. And tonight, I have to go back. There's no escape anymore. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the mirror. The man in the hat. That damn carved message. You see me. The motel room light kept flickering, and my clock blinked 3:33 a.m. on repeat, like time was stuck. No matter how many times I unplugged it, it just kept blinking. By sunrise, I made a decision. I packed a duffel bag. My car keys were already in hand. I didn't even bother to check out of the desk. I just bolted. But when I opened the motel door, the bar was across the street again. Even though it wasn't supposed to be, the devil's tap wasn't anywhere near my motel. Yet there it stood. Same blackened windows. Same crooked neon sign, half lit. Evil's tap. I backed away slowly. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Clint, if you leave, it'll follow you into places where there are no rules to protect you. Clint, come in for one more night. Finish the week. I'll explain everything. I stared at the message for a long time. Then, as if pulled by something ancient and inevitable, I crossed the street again. When I stepped inside, the air was thick with heat and wet like a sauna. The walls pulsed faintly, like the bar was breathing. The smell was stronger too. Mold, smoke, and something sharp like blood. Clint was behind the counter, polishing a glass that was already clean. His hands shook as he worked. You're lucky, he said without looking up. Most who see the man in the hat don't come back. They don't get to. I stayed silent. He slid over another yellowed slip of paper, newly typed. Final editions, do not forget. Rule number 12. Never ring the bell twice in one night. The second ring calls the wrong thing. Rule number 13. If a second mirror appears, leave the bar immediately and don't return until the next night. Rule number 14. If you see yourself behind the bar when you're not there, don't speak. Let finish. Rule number 15. If the man in the hat follows you home, don't come back. But you already did, didn't you? I tried to speak, but Clint raised a hand. I'll explain everything when your shift ends. Just survive the night. I began my shift at 9 p.m. sharp. The first hour passed like usual. The regulars trickled in, if you could call them that. Lyle, the toothless woman, the man with no hands who sipped his whiskey through a straw. Nobody said much. They never did. But I noticed something strange this time. They were watching me. More than usual. Like they were waiting for something. By 10:45, the mirror had started fogging on its own, even though no one was near it. That's when I noticed the second one. Not hanging, but sitting behind the bar, propped against the liquor shelf. Oval. Silver-rimmed. Old. I froze. Rule 13. If a second mirror appears, leave the bar immediately and don't return until the next night. I backed away slowly, made it to the swinging door that led to the back alley. But Clint was there, standing in the shadows. Face pale, expression grim. "You can't leave," he said. "Not this time." I looked over my shoulder. The second mirror was now reflecting something that wasn't me. It was the bar, empty, dead, and in the center of the frame, sitting on a stool, was the man in the hat, smiling. I turned back to Clint. "What happens if I stay?" His answer chilled me. "You finish what he started." The lights blinked. The air got cold again. The jukebox didn't play music. It growled. And then I heard it. The bell. Ding. Clear. Hollow. I froze. I hadn't touched it. The bell rang once every night at the end of a shift. Only now it rang again. Ding. Twice. Clint screamed from the shadows. "I know. You rang it twice." "I didn't." I shouted. "I swear." Too late. The second ring had already been heard. The windows began to bleed. Thick, black tar oozed from the corners of the glass, forming letters I didn't want to read. The floorboards groaned, stretching like they were being peeled upward. The patrons? They didn't move. They all stared straight ahead, mouths wide open, silent, like they'd been frozen in time. Then the lights went out. All of them. A sound filled the bar. Scraping. From the ceiling. Like claws. Something dropped behind me. I turned. A hole had opened in the mirror. Not a crack. A hole. Perfectly circular. And from that void came a long, skeletal arm. Then another. And then the man in the hat pulled himself through. But he wasn't a man anymore. Not fully. His body was wrong. Too long. His joints bending the wrong way. His hat clung to his skull like a crown made of shadows. He stood tall, gazing at me with eyes that bled stars and smoke. And then he smiled. "I've waited," he said. His voice was inside my bones. I tried to move, but I couldn't. He raised one bony hand and pointed to the bell. It rang again. Ding. This time, reality split. The bar tore itself in two. One side dark, and the other darker still. And in that chasm, I saw a vision. Myself, behind the bar, serving drinks. But I wasn't me. My eyes were empty, my smile too wide, my limbs twitching as if operated by strings. Rule 14. If you see yourself behind the bar when you're not there, don't speak. Let it finish. But the doppelganger turned to me and spoke first. "Trade." I didn't answer. He smiled wider. Too late. He stepped forward and entered me. I collapsed to the floor. I woke up on the bar floor at 4 a.m. No blood. No patrons. No second mirror. No man in the hat. Clint was gone. The bell was silent. Everything looked normal, but felt horribly wrong. When I stood up, I checked the mirror. My reflection stared back, but only for a moment. Then it turned around, without me moving. It faced the other way, and started walking. Away. I looked at my hands. They were covered in soot, and carved into my palm, deep and bleeding, were the words. You rang him. I stumbled outside, heart pounding, and looked up. The sky was wrong again, but different wrong. 2 moons, one blood red. Something was hunting me now, and I could feel it wasn't just the man in the hat. There were others, watching, waiting. Tonight, I broke the rule. Tonight, I rang the bell twice. And now, something ancient is awake. The midnight ledger. Last night, I rang the bell twice. The man in the hat came through. And then, I saw myself behind a bar, or something that won my face. The Devil's Tap isn't just haunted, it's a gateway. And now, the rules are changing. The bar keeps moving. Clint has vanished. And something ancient has begun keeping tabs. There's a new book on the counter, bound in flesh and soaked in memory. A ledger, with every name scratched inside, including mine. I didn't go home. I couldn't, because there was no home anymore. When I stepped outside after that night, if it was even outside, the world had warped. The street I knew was replaced by a dusty, one-lane road that led into a forest that wasn't there before. The sky churned like oil and blood. 2 moons hung low, each bleeding light like an open wound. I walked for hours. Nothing changed. Eventually, I gave up and went back to the Devil's Tap, or whatever version of it this was now. It looked the same, sure. Same worn wooden door, same broken neon sign, but something was off. The door opened by itself before I touched it. The bar welcomed me like it knew I'd return. And inside, the bar was empty. No patrons, no sound, just me and the book. It sat on the bar where the rule sheet used to be. Big, heavy, wrapped in what looked like stitched together skin. Its cover bore a single black symbol, a triangle inside a circle, surrounded by jagged runes. I opened it slowly, and the air shifted, growing colder with every page turned. It wasn't written in ink. It was written in blood. The first page read, "The Midnight Ledger. All who break the rules shall be accounted for." I flipped through it. Names. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Each scratched in messy, desperate script. Some were smeared out violently. Others had red wax seals next to them, or dark, inked X marks. Then I found my own name. Mason Keller. No seal. No X. But someone had underlined it 3 times. Underneath, someone had scribbled, "Bell rang twice. Bound to serve." I slammed the book shut. That's when the lights in the bar came on. Not gradually, but all at once, searing white and buzzing like a hive. The patrons returned in a blink, but they were wrong. Frozen. Their faces were empty. Eye sockets black. Their mouths hanging open like screaming mannequins. A few had skin peeling, revealing bone and sinew underneath. They stared at me, all of them. Then they spoke as one. The bar remembers. The bell binds. The ledger seals. I staggered back. That's when Clint emerged. But he wasn't Clint anymore. He moved like a puppet dragged by strings. His joints cracked. His eyes were voids. "You're in the ledger now, Mason," he rasped. "You're part of the bar. You belong to it." "No," I whispered. "There has to be a way out." He grinned, the skin of his lips splitting at the corners. "There is, but it starts with learning why the rules exist." He slammed a shot glass on the counter. It was filled with something thick and silvery. "Drink," he said. "It's the only way to see." I hesitated. Behind me, the frozen patrons began whispering, "Drink, drink, drink, drink." I took the shot. The moment the liquid hit my throat, the world fractured. I was standing in the bar, but not in my time. Everything was dim and flickering, like an old film reel. The patrons were dressed in 1800s garb. Cowboys, miners, women in dusty corsets. A piano played by itself. The walls were lined with skulls. A bartender stood behind the counter, a young woman with black hair and a hard stare. She looked terrified. I watched as she poured a drink for a man in a military coat with no face. He dropped a golden coin on the bar and whispered something. Bell rings twice. Door opens wide. The girl froze, just like I did. She reached for the bell, but too late. It rang on its own. Once, twice, and the entire bar was devoured in flame. The patrons didn't scream. They withered. Their souls, or whatever they had left, were pulled upward, vanishing into a vortex of red smoke. The girl's eyes turned black as coal. Her skin peeled. Her hands fused to the bar top. She screamed, and her voice echoed across time. I stumbled back into the present, gasping, sweating, on the sticky floor of the tap. Clint leaned over me. She was the first, he said. The first one to break the rules, and the first one taken. Her name was Ellie. This place has been here for over 100 years, changing hands, feeding on people who don't listen. I sat up slowly, trembling. But what is this place? Clint's expression darkened. It's a prison, for something old, something that wants to get out. The rules aren't to protect you from the bar. They're to keep what's inside from escaping. I looked at the ledger again. That thing in the mirror. The man in the hat. Is that what's trapped here? He nodded once. He was the first bartender. He made a deal to live forever. But the bar took that literally. Now, he is the bar. And when you rang that bell twice, I opened the door. I finished. Worse, Clint said. You invited him out. A loud thud sounded from the back. We turned. One of the bathroom doors had closed on its own. Clint moved slowly toward it, reaching for the handle. It creaked open. Inside was a staircase, leading down. Impossible. The bar had no basement, but I could hear something down there. Whispers, breathing, laughter, and ringing. Clint turned to me. I didn't want this for you, he said, but you're in it now. He handed me a piece of paper, the original rule sheet. What had changed? Updated rules. Final night. Rule number 16. Do not follow the stairs behind the restroom door unless summoned. Rule number 17. If the ledger opens on its own, let it write. Do not try to erase it. Rule number 18. When both moons align in the mirror, the bar is no longer in Texas. Rule number 19. Do not attempt to burn the bar. Fire only feeds it. Rule number 20. If a new rule appears while you read this, it's already too late. And right there, beneath Rule 20, new text formed, scratched in red ink that shimmered like blood under light. Rule number 21. The bartender must be replaced before the 7th ring, or the door stays open. My blood went cold. How many times has the bell rung since I got here? I asked. Clint didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the mirror and slowly lifted his hand and pointed at me. You're next. The bar is no longer mine to leave. The streets outside don't lead to Texas anymore. They don't lead anywhere. And the patrons? They're not people. They're waiting for me, for the 7th ring. The ledger turns its pages on its own now. Every night at 3 a.m. sharp, scratching names into its cursed skin. I've watched it write people in before they even arrive. Clint is gone again. The new mirror has appeared, and this time, it's facing away from me, showing a staircase made of bone leading deep underground. The moons are almost aligned. The bar hums with something alive, something old and hungry. And I just heard it again. Ding. That was the 6th ring. One more to go. The final ring. 6 rings. 1 left. I never wanted this job. I just needed a paycheck. Now I'm trapped in a haunted bar that shifts through time, where mirrors lie and rules rewrite themselves. I've seen myself die, watched others vanish into walls, and read my name in a ledger bound in human skin. There's one final rule. The bartender must be replaced before the 7th ring, or the door stays open forever. Midnight is here, and the bell is about to toll. I waited, still behind the bar, staring at the mirror. It no longer reflected the room. Instead, it showed a staircase spiraling endlessly downward. Bone steps slick with something black and shining. I could hear it. Wet breathing. Creaking chains. Echoes of lives taken. The bell hadn't rung yet. But the room, it was preparing. The lights dimmed. The liquor bottles along the shelves began rattling. The patrons, or what passed for them, all turned in unison toward me. And then I saw him. The man in the hat. He was sitting in the far booth, cloaked in shadow. His hat tilted low, face still obscured. A glass of something thick and red sat in front of him, untouched. I don't remember seeing him enter. I don't think he ever left. The ledger on the bar flipped open by itself. Pages turned rapidly, the whisper of parchment like dry leaves in the wind. Then it stopped. My name, Mason Keller, pulsed in deep crimson. And just beneath it, a new line appeared. The bell tolls for thee. I backed away. I didn't agree to this, I muttered. I didn't want this. The man in the hat raised his head slightly, just enough that I could glimpse his face. It was mine, but older, burned, twisted, and smiling. I didn't either, he said, voice a gravel scrape. No one does. That's why the rules exist, to trap someone new. The bell above the bar shuddered, not ringing yet, just vibrating like it was barely holding itself back. I stepped closer to the mirror. The stairs inside the reflection now descended into flickering firelight. Shadows danced along the walls. I could feel the heat bleeding through the glass. Then I saw him again, Clint, but not in the bar. He was inside the mirror, halfway down the stairs, reaching out, mouth moving as if screaming, but I heard nothing. Just the tick-tick-tick of the grandfather clock behind me, slowly edging toward midnight. I turned and ran to it. 11:59 p.m. Seconds remained. I pounded on the glass face of the clock. Stop. Stop. No use. The bell let out a choked note, half ring, half growl. My ears bled from the pressure. The patrons twitched violently. One began peeling off his skin like a shirt. Another laughed until her jaw dislocated and dangled from her neck. The man in the hat stood. He began walking toward me. Every step he took cracked the floorboards, left scorch marks behind. You've served your time, he said. You pour the drinks, followed the rules, ignored the truths. I backed into the bar, breath shallow. He stepped closer. You rang the bell twice. That gave me freedom. I didn't know. He stopped, tilted his head. Knowing isn't part of the rules. Obedience is. The clock struck midnight. The bell rang. Ding. The seventh ring. The walls rippled like fabric. The air turned viscous and red, and the mirror shattered. Not outward, inward, like the glass was being sucked into itself. And behind it, the staircase was no longer just an illusion. It was a doorway. He stepped through. The man in the hat reached back toward the bar, firelight licking his arms, black smoke rising from his coat. Time to change places, he said. Then, the mirror healed, sealed shut, and the bar was empty again. No patrons, no Clint, just silence. But I was no longer behind the bar. I was in the mirror. I screamed. I beat my fists against the glass. From the other side, he stood, me, now wearing the hat, my uniform, my terrified face twisted into a calm, sinister smile. He turned away, the bar filled with laughter, music, and voices once more. New patrons, new souls, and then a new bartender. A girl, mid-20s, nervous. She had a letter in her hand. To the new hire. Welcome to the Devil's Tap. There are a few rules to follow. She started reading aloud, and I pounded harder on the mirror. But she couldn't see me. She was just like me. A temp worker. Desperate. Broke. She would follow the rules. Question the bell. break one, and the cycle would continue. Unless I broke it. I turned away from the glass and followed the bone staircase downward. The air was thick with decay. Screams echoed, some human, some not. Torches lit themselves as I passed. Each step I took, I felt my skin changing, growing colder, tighter. The deeper I went, the more I saw. Portraits of every bartender before me lined the walls. All of them had my face. At the bottom, a vast chamber opened, circular, with red mist swirling around a colossal black altar. On it sat the true ledger, massive, breathing, pulsing. I approached it. It flipped open as if recognizing me. The page glowed. I read the words. The cycle ends when one writes their own name in fire. A blade lay beside the ledger, ancient, crusted in dry blood. I understood. I picked it up. My hand shook. My reflection in the polished metal was flickering, as if I was becoming something else, something eternal. I pressed the blade into my palm. Flames erupted from the wound, golden, not red. Holy almost. I scrawled my name across the final page. Mason Keller. The book screamed, a sound like 100 tortured souls shrieking in unison. The flames rose. The staircase shattered. The walls collapsed inward. The bar above groaned, its beams splintering, mirrors cracking. And then, nothing. I woke up, lying in the dirt. Outside, under a warm Texas sun, the Devil's Tap was gone. Just a crater remained. I stumbled to my feet. My hand still burned where the blade had cut, but the scar glowed faintly. I turned in circles, dazed. Had I done it? Had I broken the cycle? That's when I heard the jingle of a bell. I turned. A new bar sign stood in the distance, swaying in the breeze. It read, "Welcome to the Devil's Pour." Fresh paint, fresh wood. I stepped closer and peered through the dusty window. Inside, a bartender, a girl, reading a sheet of rules, and standing in the far booth, a man in a black hat, smiling. I thought writing my name in fire would end it, but I was wrong. All I did was move the curse, relocate it, evolve it. The bar always comes back. It changes its name, its face, its rules, but the ledger always survives. And the bell always waits to toll. So if you ever find a bar in a dusty Texas town that offers you a job for the night, and they hand you a list of strange rules, don't take it. And whatever you do, don't ring the bell.